Deadline day is fast approaching and Tottenham have still got a lot to do in this transfer window. And after a really good start from Thomas Frank, which I've analysed in yesterday's video, go back and watch that if you have not already. I mentioned towards the end of this that even though Thomas Frank has had a fantastic start to life at Tottenham, we still need to do some stuff in the transfer window. I know what's happened with Eberichieze, Morgan White, injuries to Dan Kulusevski, and James Maddison. We still have not done enough. I like the signings of Kudus. I like the signings of João Palhinha, but there's still a hell of a lot, especially creators and attackers, number 10 in particular, that Tottenham must do ahead of deadline day. So today on the talkSPORT YouTube channel, I'm going to be reacting to some of the biggest transfer windows that are popping up on social media. And I'm just going to react to them, give my thoughts on them, see the likelihood, because we need to get these done. And there's some three really big names that I want to talk about today that could or could not happen, but Tottenham need to sort out massively. But as I say, before we get into this one, if you are new to the talkSPORT YouTube channel and you're just discovering me right now, here right now, then get down below, leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and also let me know in the comments down below, who do you want us to sign before deadline day, which is on Monday, closes at 7 p.m. I'll probably do a live stream actually as the window closes, and we can talk about the transfer window in general. And I'm also going to do a live stream for the Champions League draw, which is later on tonight. So stay tuned for that. It should be going live around just before the draw, and we'll talk about it, do a Q&A, talk about transfer window, all good stuff like that. So put your notification bells on for that. So the three big signings that I want to talk about that we've been linked to, as I say, in the last 24 hours or so. And I'm going to start with West Ham's Lucas Paqueta, who has been linked quite, it started off as quite a niche rumour, like paper talk, but has been hotting up that he wouldn't mind leaving West Ham if an offer came in. West Ham, would be potentially open to a sale, but we've got to remember, we've already signed Mohamed Kudus from them this window for a very cut price deal. And he's hit the ground running, hasn't he? Mohamed Kudus looks absolutely fantastic. But Lucas Paqueta, what do I think of this deal? Well, I think if we could get the player for a reasonable fee, I think maybe around that 40 to 50 million mark, you're looking at a really good potential player. And what Tottenham are looking at, the rumours still going on, and the same that have been going for the last month, is still that they like the idea of a 10, a winger, and maybe a centre-back. Now, I don't really agree that we need a centre-back. I feel like we could be okay in that area. Maybe a little backup, but I'm not really sure what names are springing out to me when it comes to that. But today we're just talking about attackers. And to me, I think Lucas Paqueta would be a good deal if it could get done. He could also play a multitude of different positions. And with Yves Bissouma looking likely to leave Spurs this summer on loan with an obligation to buy, I think Paqueta can play in the 8 role. He could also play in the 10. I feel like he would really dovetail nicely with our current attack, and I think he's got a good eye for a pass. He is a good creator, good goal scorer, and I think we have sort of seen some good spells from him at West Ham, but under Potter most recently, even Lopetegui last year, he's been quite flat. We're not seeing him at his best since David Moyes was at the London Stadium. So I'd like the idea of Lucas Paqueta. I think it would be a tricky deal, and I can't imagine West Ham selling him, on the eve of deadline day with pretty much not a replacement in sight. So I like the idea of this, but I don't think it will happen. I still, I mean, let me be honest with you guys. A lot of these that I'm saying today, I feel like a lot of them will happen. I feel like Tottenham are just going to pluck a Bilal El Khanous out in the final moments. But I'm talking about some transfers that I'd like to happen going into deadline day. And the next one that I actually have a little inkling that this could happen is Ademola Lookman of Atalanta. Obviously, has handed in a transfer request, I believe, at Atalanta when Gasperini left. It looked like his future was up. Has been fantastic since he's been at Atalanta. Obviously, scored in the Europa League final, obviously the year before we won it. And has been very good, sublime. Has obviously had a spell in the Premier League, Everton and Fulham, I believe, as well. And I think for the fee that's being touted at around 50 million euros, so 45-ish million pounds, I think it makes perfect sense as a good winger. I think, he's matured. I could imagine Fabio Paratici has something to do with this deal, with his black book in Italy and, scouring around looking for some good sources there. He was linked with Arsenal, but you've got Eze in that position now. He was also linked with a move to Inter Milan, but that looks like it's stalled. So I like the idea of Ademola Lookman. I think it's a possibility. But I like Ademola Lookman and someone else in the 10. I feel like he's good in the wing position. He'll provide a good competition for Tell, for also Odebear and Brennan Johnson and Kudos as well. Brings goals, which is much needed with the departure of Heung-Min's son. I really like this one. I really like it. And I saw Ben Bowman tweet about it. I've got a small feeling about this one. I feel like this one could be a bolt out the blue. I saw Ben Jacobs tweet about it. It was quite reliable. So I like the idea of this one. This is one that is tickling my fancy. Before I finish as well, I was on the latest episode of Inside Spurs. I plugged some clips to it yesterday. And on that, we mentioned about Harvey Elliott. Now, I think Harvey Elliott would be a fantastic signing. This is what we said about Harvey Elliott. So far, the window's been, I'm going to go with okay. Because we've gone out there, we've signed some players that we needed, some different players that offer something that we don't have, and that's what I think a good transfer window is. But the problem is, it's been a month since we've signed someone. Spurs are historic for leaving it last minute, deadline day specialists, Levy, panicking final moments.
Get your yellow ties on.
Exactly, but that's what really annoyed me most. Not the fact that he went to Arsenal, not the fact that he turned us down, but if we just maybe offered maybe a few more terms here and there, different payment, it's always just a bit. We're just going to be bridesmaids forever in the transfer market because we're just not offering what people. We're trying to shop in Harrods with our like Lidl card or something like that. It's just not really. It's getting the coupons out and seeing if we can get the extra. To me, as I said earlier in the previous section, the market's now shrunk. All the targets that we were looking at are now either like
and they know
not
we're
available.
Desperate.
Exactly. And we look like mugs now, don't we?
Bad business.
I think the problem with the Eze situation is not about shopping at Harrods on a little card, but more trying to. In theory, what Spurs did made sense. There was an opportunity to negotiate a lower fee with Crystal Palace, let the release clause expire. You think that you're the only interested party. You get the deal done at a lower price. It's an intelligent piece of business. But the football world is volatile. The industry is volatile. Players get injured. Circumstances change. And so the longer that Spurs waited to make that deal, the more chance that something would go wrong. That's my criticism, that you could have executed it at £68 million or £70 million or whatever it was. But you could have got it done at the beginning of August, at the end of July, and you're mitigating the risk involved. I think looking at the differences between Postecoglou and Frank with the squad composition, etc., maybe the one thing which helped Spurs is that to be a Postecoglou player, it was a very specific system and you needed a very specific type of player to basically run up and down all
he needed a squad of like
game.
40 players, didn't
Whereas at least with Frank, we've already seen on 3 different occasions, different systems, different profiles of players and tweaks within it. So maybe the pool of players that Spurs can buy under Frank is slightly bigger than what they could have bought under Postecoglou. So maybe heading into the window, there's more opportunities present themselves than if they were still under Postecoglou looking at a player they need for a Postecoglou system.
And the thing is as well, of course, after the Eze situation, he responded, not mentioning Eze or anyone in particular, I want players here that want to play for this badge and understand and respect this club. So, there's that to take into consideration as well. So whenever he's speaking to someone, like he said, Polina said, I spoke to the coach and I wanted to come here. So he's selling, the project to these players. Now, there are a few players out there that I look at and think their clubs, they're not getting enough game time and they would suit. I already mentioned off air, someone like Harvey Elliott, for example, for me, who's a great young, English talent who's been at a Premier League winning side. He's got Premier League experience. Okay, it might not be the biggest numbers, but I think he's someone who comes in and improves the squad. Not necessarily maybe the starting 11. I think he could definitely.
He's a winner. You could say that if you wanted to.
Still a very young player.
Still very young, and a lot.
Versatile.
And it would mean him coming back to London as well for him being from a London background. There are players out there, but I think what's going to really take some of the heat off of Daniel Levy after this Eze situation, and people are unhappy. It's going to have to be a marquee signing, and he's kind of allowed that to happen.
But who is that? That's the thing. Like, we're not going to. If the money's still there, like the 60 million must be floating around because they're the two sort of offers we put in for Eze and Rodgers. So you got to think who is a 60 million pound player who's available. It's hard to. Like I've said some names earlier, but even they're 60s, 80s, 100. I mean, if he did do that, then he'd get all the monkeys off his back, wouldn't he? Like if he went and slapped down 80 million on Morgan Rogers and Villa, they could they've got so many PSR.
It would help their PSR for sure.
To me, there's a few opportunities still lingering, like testing West Ham's resolve for Lucas Paqueta or something like that.
Oh, don't say that. The West Ham fans would hate us.
But it's like we're leaving it so late in the day, and it questions, and maybe Jay knows some answers to this, like the sort of way we've gone into this window. Obviously people talk about Johan Langer and Vinay Venkateshan's now in the building. Paratici, what's his situation? He was at Stamford Bridge watching Eze last week. So what has been the transfer sort of outlook from Spurs this year?
I think the biggest issue that Spurs faced in this transfer window, there were two. Whether Postecoglou was still going to be in charge and whether they were going to be in European competition or not. And both of those things were only determined in late May and early June. So lots of other clubs, and we'll use Brentford as an example. Brentford plan their transfer windows 18 months in advance, which to me is insane.
Wow.
But that's how far ahead they're looking at the development of particular players, looking at contracts running down, etc. And obviously they're a very good example of a club that's run very efficiently in the transfer market. Whereas if Spurs are in the final week of May, looking at their list of targets, thinking, this is the list if we're in the Champions League, this is the list if we're not in the Champions League. They've lost so much ground on, just background work that they can do with those targets already.
How much money are we getting for Christmas this year, boys?
And also just delaying Postecoglou, the decision around that. I think it was 2 weeks after the Europa League final, and then it was another week until Frank was hired. That's an extra 3 weeks. And I think during that time was the first pre-Club World Cup transfer window where Chelsea signed Delap and João Pedro. It's just, again, that's another 3 key weeks there to get business done. So I think since all of that's happened, Spurs have made some mistakes. Just mentioned it with not really moving quickly enough with Eze. But I also think the hands were slightly tied behind their back because of circumstances. But did they deal with the Postecoglou situation perfectly?
It makes a bit of sense with there was some quotes from Thomas Frank the other week saying that at the moment, his relationship transfer-wise is not what it was like at Brentford. Well, if it's like what you're saying there, where it is so smooth and they're identifying targets,
polar opposite,
and like they know what they've got their scouts in wherever they want to look. Then I think the thing is, you can see what Levy is trying to do. He's got Paratici in sort of the southern Europe, looking at like maybe some experience, and in Northern Europe maybe Johan Lang's looking at some like gems here and there.
Talent,
So I feel like it's trying to get there, but it's going to take years for this to set the wheels in motion. And at the moment, I think as Spurs fans, we're impatient. I'm going to admit we're impatient, and we just would like a statement signing because
we haven't had one. Do you know who our last statement signing was? Who would you say it was, Jay?
Yeah, would it not be Solanke? Club record signing last year, England international. You're not having that, are you?
Gareth Bale on loan as like a dreamy one.
Well, when he came back.
But I'd say a statement might have been Ndombele because it was like, look at this guy, high profile.
Mate, 94, Jurgen Klinsmann.
Yeah, true. Well, like a big name,
big name on the world stage.
Okay, I get coming in. I get
like, when you ask Spurs fans that, they'll say Modric, but they were pumped. That went really well.
Van der Vaart.
Van der Vaart was at the tail end of the Real Madrid career. It didn't really go that well, but we obviously loved him. But again, that's what frustrates the Spurs fans because they're paying all of this money, to go to the big stadium and they've got everything there. But, where's that, the big, even for Arsenal, seeing Eze walk out with the jeans and the top on and that, and Ian Wright's doing, do you want to create? Do you want to re-sign an academy product for over 60 million? But, we all want that as fans. We want that big moment to get excited and the kids getting their scarves and all that out. And again, I think... a lot of Spurs fans at the moment are hurting, and it is because of being always the bridesmaid, as you said.
I think it's because Son leaving as well. Seeing Son leave,
but that's
a big name, a big personality, a talisman, a legend, and seeing like he's already hit the ground running in the MLS. I think he's now the most sold shirt in MLS history or in the world at the moment, next to Messi and whatever. So like that, him going as well is leaving a chasm because it's like, who is our star? Because we're saying Romero, we're saying all these players are. But there's not like a, you put on your wall when you're younger, like a poster.
That's why I said
Eze could have been that.
Eze definitely could have been that.
Maybe Kudus or someone like that will be that by the end of the year. Or
100%.
But finally, the transfer that I would love, I was gutted missing out on Morgan Gibbs-White, more so than Eze. I mean, I'd like the idea of Morgan Rogers, but that ain't happening. I mean, I think Villa would potentially sell, but you have to offer in between 80 to 100 million, which is not going to happen. But the Xavi Simons news has intrigued me in the last 24 hours. He ideally would like to go to Chelsea ahead of deadline day, but a lot of moves to Chelsea have slowed down in recent days and weeks. And I think his wages are quite seismic, as well as the fee that, Chelsea have forked out a lot of money this summer already, and looks set to secure a deal for Alejandro Garnacho. So to me, the Xavi Simons a deal is there to potentially for Spurs to pounce on, but I can see them maybe lowballing again. I could see them maybe not paying up the wages and saying we tried and all that. So to me, a Xavi Simons would tick so many boxes, would be a fantastic signing, all that, blah, blah, blah. But you know what I'm going to say? But again, I can't see Tottenham really busting a gut ahead of deadline day. What has happened is a lot of teams have pounced on what we're doing, like Arsenal with Eze. They sort of pounced, we saw a circling. We need to now try and do that with Chelsea. It's going to be hard because the player wants Champions League football, which both clubs are offering. Chelsea look more secure in the sense of maybe going a bit, top 4, fighting for the title potentially. But with Chelsea, it's a bit confusing. Like, Cole Palmer, does he fit in with him? João Pedro, they've got very stacked attack. Does Xavi Simons walk in? I think he's, I watched him last year actually at the Euros final for the Netherlands, and he is an unreal talent. Has been fantastic for RB Leipzig as well. But yeah, to me, it's a tricky one, and it obviously depends on Nkunku leading Chelsea. But either one would be so for this. It would really tickle my fancy. But yeah, apart from that, there's not really too much else. Like I feel like we're now exhausting our options, and I think I would like us to go for. I don't know if I just want bodies at this stage. I would rather, for example, and I did a video on him, and he was so impressed the other night. I'd rather promote Luca Williams-Barnett from the under-21s. Well, he's 16, but he's been playing with the under-21s. Rather promote him and have him in the round of first team. He looks absolutely incredible. Go and watch that video if you haven't watched it, because I deep dive into his numbers. He is a sublime player. Some of the moves and goals and skills he was doing in a game the other day against Bristol Rovers were incredible. But that's all we've got time for today. Let me know in the comments down below who you want Tottenham to sign. As always, leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. And as I say, I'm doing a live stream tonight for the Champions League draw. And also, I haven't mentioned this, but on Saturday, I will be at Tottenham versus Bournemouth with my dad. I sit in the South Stand. If you see me, come and say hello. But until that game, until next time, the stream, I will see you guys soon. Have a good rest of your day, and hopefully Tottenham makes a move. But until then, have a good one. Ciao.